My husband looked at my 7-year-old daughter and told her she was not his responsibility. He said she was not his blood. He called her baggage. And she was standing right there in the hallway, close enough to hear every single word. I watched my little girl's face crumble. I watched her eyes fill with tears. I watched her tiny hands start to shake as she tried to understand why the man she called Daddy Hollis would say something so cruel. And in that moment, something inside me shattered and then reformed into something harder, something unbreakable. I filed for divorce that same night. I did not wait for an apology. I did not wait for an explanation. I did not give him the chance to twist his words into something more palatable. Some things cannot be unsaid. Some wounds cannot be patched over with excuses. But here is the part that still amazes me. What Hollis did not realize when he spoke those words is that he had just set fire to his entire life. Within 72 hours, he would lose his job. He would lose his reputation. He would lose every connection and advantage he had spent years building. And the most satisfying part? I did not have to lift a finger to make it happen. He destroyed himself. All I did was walk away. My name is Corinne Bellamy. I am 34 years old and I live in Ridgemont, Ohio, a small town where everybody knows everybody and reputation is everything. I work as a veterinary technician at Ridgemont Animal Clinic. It is not glamorous work, but I love it. I love the animals. I love helping them heal. I love the predictability of my days and the purpose it gives me. But this story is not really about me. It is about my daughter, Wren. She is 7 years old, and she is the most precious thing in my entire world. She has her father's eyes. Her biological father, I mean. His name was Everett, and he died in a trucking accident when Wren was only 2 years old. She does not remember him. Not really. She knows him through photographs and stories and the stuffed rabbit he bought her the day she was born that she still sleeps with every night. Losing Everett nearly broke me. I was 27 years old, a widow with a toddler, trying to figure out how to keep breathing when the person I loved most was suddenly gone. For 5 years, it was just me and Wren. We built a life together. A small life, a quiet life, but it was ours. Then I met Hollis Drummond. Hollis was a regional sales manager for Gentry Farm Equipment. He was 38, confident, well-dressed, and had a smile that made you feel like you were the only person in the room. He partnered with my father's company on several big accounts. My father, Nolan Bellamy, owns Bellamy Freight and Logistics. It is a regional trucking company that hauls equipment for agricultural dealers across 3 states. My mother, Della, runs the office. My older brother, Tommy, manages operations. It is a family business in every sense of the word. Hollis came to Sunday, dinners. He brought flowers for my mother. He shook my father's hand firmly and asked Tommy about the latest shipments like he genuinely cared. He seemed perfect, and with Wren, he was wonderful. At first, he brought her stuffed animals and called her princess. He read her bedtime stories. He taught her to ride a bike in the driveway while I watched from the porch, letting myself believe that maybe we could be a real family again. Maybe Wren could have a father. Maybe I could have a partner. We got married after 8 months of dating. My mother told me it was too fast. She said Hollis smiled too much and listened too little. I told her she was being paranoid. I told her I deserved to be happy, and she hugged me and said she hoped I was right. I was not right. The man I married was not the man Hollis turned out to be. The warmth faded. The patience disappeared. The stuffed animals stopped coming, and so did the bedtime stories. Slowly, so slowly I almost did not notice, Hollis began treating my daughter like an inconvenience, like a problem he had inherited against his will. I made excuses for him. He was stressed at work. He was tired. He was not used to kids. I told myself it would get better. I told myself he just needed time. But then came that Thursday night. The night he stood in our kitchen and said those unforgivable words while my 7-year-old daughter listened from the hallway. The night Wren cried for hours and asked me what she did wrong. The night I realized that I had made a terrible mistake and the only thing left to do was fix it. I did not scream at Hollis. I did not throw things or demand answers. I waited until Wren cried herself to sleep, and then I sat alone in the dark living room and made the clearest decision of my life. I was done. What happened over the next 72 hours is a story of consequences, not revenge. I did not plot against Hollis. I did not scheme or manipulate. I simply removed myself and my daughter from his life. And when I did, every lie he had built his success on came tumbling down. This is that story. To understand why that Thursday night broke me, you need to understand what my life looked like before Hollis Drummond walked into it. After Everett died, I spent 2 years barely functioning. I went through the motions for Wren's sake. I got her dressed, I fed her. I took her to daycare and picked her up and read her stories at night. But inside, I was hollow. The man I had loved since I was 19 years old was gone, and I did not know how to exist in a world without him. Everett and I met at a county fair the summer after I graduated high school. He was 21, working for my father's trucking company, and he had this quiet confidence that made me feel safe. We dated for 5 years before we got married. We wanted to do things right, save money, build a foundation. When Wren was born, Everett held her in his arms and cried. He said she was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. 2 years later, a driver ran a red light on Highway 31 and hit Everett's truck head on. He died before the paramedics arrived. I remember my father coming to tell me. I remember the way his face looked, like he had aged 10 years in a single afternoon. I remember my mother taking Wren from my arms because I could not stop shaking, but I do not remember much after that. The funeral is a blur. The weeks that followed are fragments. I know I survived because Wren needed me to survive. That was the only reason. Slowly, painfully, I rebuilt. I threw myself into work at the animal clinic. I focused on being the best mother I could be. My parents helped constantly. My brother Tommy would come over on weekends just to give me a break, taking Wren to the park or out for ice cream so I could have a few hours alone. We were a family held together by grief and stubbornness and love. By the time Wren started kindergarten, I had found something like peace. Our life was small but good. We had routines. Monday nights were pasta nights. Fridays we watched movies on the couch with popcorn. Saturday mornings I took Wren to the farmer's market in town and she would pick out flowers for our kitchen table. It was not the life I had imagined, but it was ours. I was not looking for anyone. I want to make that clear. I was not on dating apps. I was not hoping to meet someone. I had accepted that my great love story had already happened and it had ended tragically. And that was simply my reality. Then Hollis showed up at Sunday dinner. My father had invited him. They were working on a major contract together, and Dad wanted to get to know him better. That was how my father operated. Business was personal to him. If he was going to trust someone with his company's reputation, he wanted to look them in the eye over pot roast first. Hollis was charming that night. He complimented my mother's cooking 3 times. He asked my brother thoughtful questions about fleet management. He listened when my father talked about the early days of building the company. And when Wren wandered into the dining room in her pajamas because she could not sleep, Hollis smiled at her like she was the most delightful interruption in the world. "Well, who is this princess?" he asked. Wren giggled and hid behind my chair, but I saw her peeking out at him, curious and shy. And something in my chest loosened just a little. Over the next few months, Hollis became a regular presence. He found excuses to stop by the clinic during my lunch break. He brought coffee and asked about my day. He remembered small details like when I mentioned that Wren loved butterflies and showed up the following week with a butterfly kite for her. I fell for him slowly and then all at once. He seemed so genuine, so steady, so eager to be part of our lives. When he proposed after 8 months, I said yes. My mother pulled me aside that night and told me to be careful. "There is something about him I cannot name," she said. "He smiles too much, like he is performing." I told her she was wrong. I told her she did not know him like I did. The first year of marriage was good. Not perfect, but good. Hollis was attentive. He helped Wren with her homework. He came to her school events. He held my hand in public and told me I was beautiful. I let myself believe that I had been given a second chance at happiness. But somewhere in the second year, things began to shift. It happened so gradually that I almost missed it. Hollis started working later. He seemed irritated more often. When Wren talked at dinner, he would stare at his phone instead of engaging. When she asked him to play with her, he would say he was tired. I told myself it was normal. Every marriage has difficult seasons. He was under pressure at work. He just needed time to adjust. But deep down, in the part of me I did not want to listen to, I knew something was wrong. I just was not ready to admit it yet. The Thursday that changed everything started like any other day. I dropped Ren at school, went to work, and spent the afternoon assisting with a surgery on a golden retriever who had been hit by a car. The dog survived, but it was a long and stressful procedure. By the time I left the clinic, I was exhausted in that bone-deep way where all you want is a hot shower and silence. I pulled into the driveway around 6:30. Hollis's car was already there, which was unusual. He typically worked late on Thursdays. I remember thinking maybe he had come home early to surprise us. Maybe he was making dinner. I wanted so badly to believe that the distance I had been feeling was temporary, that tonight would be different. I walked through the front door and immediately felt the tension in the air. It was thick and uncomfortable, like the house itself was holding its breath. Ren was sitting at the kitchen table with her math homework spread out in front of her. Her little face was pinched with concentration, and she was gripping her pencil so tightly her knuckles were white. Hollis was standing by the counter with his arms crossed and his jaw tight. He did not look at me when I came in. "What is going on?" I asked. Hollis let out a sharp breath through his nose. "Your daughter interrupted my conference call 3 times. I was on a call worth 6 figures and she kept coming into my office asking for help with her homework." I looked at Ren. She was staring down at her paper, her shoulders hunched like she was trying to make herself smaller. "Hollis, she is 7, I said carefully. "She does not understand work calls. I am sorry that happened, but she did not mean any harm." "I do not care what she meant," he snapped. "I care that I almost lost a client because she cannot leave me alone for 1 hour." I took a breath and kept my voice calm. I was so used to managing his moods by then, smoothing things over, making peace. "I will talk to her," I said. "We will set up a system. She can come to me when she needs help, and we will make sure she knows not to interrupt when your office door is closed." But Hollis was not listening. He was pacing now, his face red with frustration that seemed out of proportion to the situation. This was about more than a conference call. I could feel it. "You know what, Corinne? I am done," he said. "I am done pretending." My stomach dropped. "Pretending what?" He stopped pacing and pointed at Ren. She looked up, her eyes wide with confusion and fear. "She is not my responsibility," he said. "She is not my blood. I married you, Corinne, not her. I did not sign up to raise someone else's kid. I am tired of acting like she is mine when she is not. She is your baggage, and I am sick of carrying it." The words hung in the air like poison. Ren's face crumbled. Her lips started to tremble, and tears spilled down her cheeks. She looked at Hollis with an expression that broke something inside me. It was hope dying. It was a little girl realizing that the man she had tried so hard to love did not love her back. "Daddy Hollis," she whispered. He did not even flinch. He grabbed his jacket from the back of a chair and walked toward the door. "I am going to the gym," he said. "We can talk about this later when you have calmed down." And then he was gone. Ren burst into sobs, deep, gasping, heartbroken sobs that shook her entire small body. I rushed to her and pulled her into my arms, holding her tight against my chest. "Mama, what did I do?" she cried. "Why does he not want me? Am I bad?" "No, baby," I said, my own voice breaking. No, you did nothing wrong. This is not your fault. None of this is your fault." I carried her to the couch and held her for hours. She cried until she had no tears left, and then she just lay against me, hiccuping and trembling. She asked me again and again why Hollis said those things. She asked if her real daddy would have loved her. She asked if she was hard to love. Every question was a knife in my heart. I stroked her hair and told her she was perfect. I told her she was kind and smart and wonderful. I told her that some people do not know how to love properly, and that was their failing, not hers. I said everything a mother should say, and I meant every word. But inside, I was filled with a rage so cold and so clear that it frightened me. By the time Ren finally fell asleep around 10 o'clock, I had made my decision. There would be no discussion, no counseling, no second chance. A man who could look at a child who had already lost her father and call her baggage did not deserve another moment of my life. I was done. I sat in the dark living room for a long time after Wren fell asleep. The house was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional car passing on the street outside. I did not cry. I did not pace. I just sat there with my hands folded in my lap, thinking with a clarity I had not felt in years. My phone was on the coffee table. I picked it up and called my brother. Tommy answered on the third ring, his voice groggy with sleep. "Corinne, it is almost midnight. What is wrong?" I told him everything, every word Hollis had said, the way Wren's face had crumbled, the hours I had spent holding my daughter while she sobbed and asked me why she was so hard to love. I spoke calmly and steadily, but Tommy knew me well enough to hear the steel underneath. When I finished, there was silence on the line. Then Tommy exhaled slowly. "Pack a bag for you and Wren," he said. "You are staying at Mom and Dad's tonight. I will be there in 20 minutes. I did not argue. I did not hesitate. I went upstairs, grabbed a duffel bag, and packed clothes for both of us. I lifted Wren from her bed as gently as I could, wrapping her in a blanket. She stirred but did not wake, just nestled her head against my shoulder and sighed. Tommy's truck pulled into the driveway at exactly 12:15. He did not honk or come inside. He just waited with the engine running and the passenger door open. I carried Wren out into the cool night air and buckled her into the back seat. She slept through the whole thing. Tommy did not say much on the drive. He did not need to. When we pulled up to my parents' house, the porch light was already on. My mother was standing in the doorway in her bathrobe, and my father was right behind her. Dad took the duffel bag from Tommy's hands. Mom reached for Wren, and I let her take my daughter inside. Then I stood on the porch with my father and brother, and I said the words out loud for the first time. "I am filing for divorce tomorrow." My father nodded once. "Good." That was all he said. But I saw his jaw tighten and his hands clench at his sides. My father was not a man who raised his voice or made threats. He did not need to. When Nolan Bellamy was angry, you felt it in the air around him. The next morning, I called a divorce attorney before I'd even finished my first cup of coffee. Her name was Patricia Holt, and she had handled my cousin's divorce 3 years earlier. She agreed to see me that afternoon. I sat in her office and explained the situation. I told her about the marriage, the gradual change in Hollis's behavior, and what he had said to my daughter. Patricia listened without interrupting, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. "Do you want to attempt mediation or counseling?" she asked when I finished. "No," I said. "I want this done as quickly and cleanly as possible." She nodded and began explaining the process. Ohio is a no-fault divorce state, which meant I did not need to prove wrongdoing. I just needed to file and wait out the required separation period. She told me she would have the papers drafted by the end of the day. I signed everything that afternoon. The divorce petition was filed before 5 o'clock. That evening, I sat down with my parents at their kitchen table and told them the full story. My mother listened with tears in her eyes. My father listened with a stillness that made the room feel heavy. When I finished, Dad spoke first. That man sat at my dinner table every Sunday for 2 years. I introduced him to every major client in 3 counties. I gave him accounts worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. He paused, his voice low and controlled. And he called my granddaughter baggage. My mother put her hand on his arm. "Nolan," he shook his head. "No, this ends now." I did not ask what he meant. Part of me did not want to know. Meanwhile, Hollis had come home to an empty house. He called me 17 times that night. I did not answer. He left voicemails that ranged from confused to irritated to desperate. He texted asking where I was and why I had taken Wren without telling him. I did not respond to any of it. The following afternoon, a process server walked into the Gentry Farm equipment office and handed Hollis the divorce papers in front of his coworkers. Tommy heard about it from a friend who worked in the building. He said Hollis turned white as a sheet and had to sit down. I felt nothing when I heard that. No satisfaction, no guilt, just a calm certainty that I had done the right thing. What I did not realize yet was that the divorce papers were only the beginning. The real consequences were already in motion, and Hollis had no idea what was coming. I did not set out to destroy Hollis Drummond. I want to make that absolutely clear. I was not scheming. I was not plotting revenge. I simply wanted to remove myself and my daughter from his life and move forward. But what I did not fully understand until everything unfolded was that Hollis's entire career, his reputation, his success, all of it was built on a foundation that did not belong to him. It belonged to my family. The morning after Hollis was served with divorce papers, my father made 3 phone calls. I did not know about these calls until later. Dad never told me what he said exactly, but I can imagine. Nolan Bellamy was a man of few words, and when he spoke, people listened. The first call was to Henderson Agricultural Supply, one of the largest farm equipment dealers in the region. The second was to Oakfield Machinery Cooperative. The third was to Brannock Tractor and Implement. All 3 companies had been doing business with Gentry Farm Equipment for years, and all 3 accounts had been assigned to Hollis Drummond. Not because he was the best salesman, not because he had earned their trust through hard work and dedication, but because he was Nolan Bellamy's son-in-law. By noon that same day, all 3 companies had contacted Gentry and requested new sales representatives. They did not want to do business with Hollis anymore. They did not want to be associated with a man the Bellamy family had cut ties with. In a small community like ours, reputation was currency, and Hollis had just gone bankrupt. The executives at Gentry Farm Equipment were not fools. They understood exactly what had happened. Hollis had been coasting on connections he had not earned, and now those connections were gone. His sales numbers, without the Bellamy-affiliated accounts, were mediocre at best. He brought nothing to the table that another salesman could not provide. His boss called him into the office that afternoon. I heard about the conversation later from Tommy, who heard it from someone who worked in the building. "We have had complaints, Hollis," his boss said. "Clients say you overpromise and underdeliver. You have been riding on your family connections for 2 years, and frankly, without those connections, your numbers do not justify your salary. We are going to have to let you go." Hollis was fired on the spot. He walked out of the Gentry office carrying a cardboard box of his belongings, and by the time he reached his car, half the town already knew. But that was not the worst of it. When I filed for divorce, my attorney Patricia requested standard financial disclosure. This is routine in any divorce proceeding. Both parties have to provide documentation of their income, assets, and debts so the court can make fair decisions about property division. What we found in Hollis's financial records was stunning. He had $94,000 in hidden credit card debt. 3 cards maxed out to their limits. He had also taken out a personal loan for $15,000 that I knew nothing about. The statements showed cash advances, online transactions, and payments to websites I did not recognize. Patricia dug deeper. The websites were gambling platforms, sports betting, online poker. Hollis had been gambling in secret for over a year, and he had been losing badly. Every month, he dug himself deeper into a hole he could not climb out of. The man who had called my 7-year-old daughter a financial burden had been hemorrhaging money behind my back. The man who resented every dollar spent on Wren's school supplies and dance lessons had been betting thousands on football games and card tables. When I saw those statements, I felt sick. Not because of the money. We had kept our finances mostly separate, so his debt was his problem, not mine. I felt sick because I had shared a bed with this man for 2 years and never knew who he really was. I had trusted him with my daughter. I had believed he was building a life with us when he was actually building a house of cards. The news spread quickly. In a town like Ridgemont, there are no secrets. People talked at the diner and the grocery store and after church on Sundays. Hollis Drummond, the charming sales manager who had married Nolan Bellamy's widowed daughter, was a fraud, a gambler, a man who had called his stepdaughter baggage. 3 days after he spoke those cruel words in our kitchen, Hollis had lost his wife, his job, his reputation, and any chance of recovering his standing in the community. His own mother called me a week later. Her name was Darlene, and she lived 2 hours away in Columbus. She was crying when I answered. "Corinne, I am so sorry," she said. "I did not raise him to be this way. I do not know what happened to him, but I am ashamed. That little girl did not deserve what he said. You did not deserve any of this." I thanked her for calling. I told her I did not blame her, and I meant it. Whatever broke inside Hollis was not his mother's fault. When I hung up, I sat quietly for a long moment. I thought I would feel triumphant. I thought I would feel vindicated. But all I felt was tired. tired and sad and ready to move on. Hollis did not lose everything because I took it from him. He lost everything because there was nothing real underneath the image he had built. Once the Bellamy name was removed, once the connections disappeared, there was nothing left but debt and deception. He had done this to himself. The divorce was finalized 4 months after I filed. The proceedings were straightforward. Hollis did not contest anything. He was too busy dealing with his mountain of debt and his shattered reputation to put up a fight. I got the house. I got full custody of Wren. Hollis got his gambling debt and a one-way ticket out of Ridgemont. I heard he moved back to Columbus to live with his mother. I do not know what he is doing now, and I do not care. He is not my concern anymore. He stopped being my concern the moment those words left his mouth. The hardest part of the aftermath was not the legal process or the financial untangling. It was watching my daughter try to heal from a wound she should never have received. Wren struggled for months. She had nightmares almost every night for the first few weeks. She would wake up crying, calling out for me, and I would hold her until she fell back asleep. During the day, she was quieter than usual. She did not laugh as easily. She stopped asking to have friends over because she was embarrassed that Daddy Hollis was gone. I took her to see a child therapist named Dr. Renee Ashford. She was kind and patient, and she specialized in helping children process grief and trauma. Wren was reluctant at first, but Dr. Ashford had a way of making her feel safe. They would draw pictures together and talk about feelings using stuffed animals. Slowly, session by session, Wren began to open up. One evening, about 3 months after the divorce, Wren and I were sitting on the couch watching a movie. It was one of her favorites, an animated film about a princess who saves her own kingdom without waiting for a prince. Wren was cuddled up against me with a bowl of popcorn in her lap, and for the first time in a long time, she seemed relaxed, content. Then she looked up at me and asked a question that stopped my heart. "Mama, was I not good enough for Daddy Hollis to love me?" I turned off the television and pulled her onto my lap. I held her face in my hands and looked directly into her eyes. "Listen to me, Wren. There's nothing wrong with you. You are kind and smart and brave and wonderful. What Daddy Hollis said had nothing to do with who you are. It had everything to do with who he is. Some people do not know how to love properly. That is their problem, not yours. You are easy to love. You are the easiest person in the world to love." She stared at me for a long moment, processing my words. Then she nodded slowly. "I do not think he was a real daddy," she said quietly. "Real daddies do not say mean things. Like Daddy Everett. He would never say that, right?" My throat tightened. "No, baby. Your real daddy loved you more than anything in this entire world. He would have moved mountains for you, and so would I." She hugged me then, her small arms wrapping around my neck, and I held her so tightly I thought I might never let go. That was the moment I knew we were going to be okay. It has been 8 months now since that Thursday night when everything fell apart. Wren is doing better. She smiles more. She laughs more. She made 2 new friends at school, and she has started taking art classes on Saturday mornings. Her nightmares have mostly stopped. She still sees Dr. Ashford once a month, but it is more of a check-in now than a crisis intervention. As for me, I am not dating anyone. I am not looking. I spent 2 years trying to turn Hollis into the man I wanted him to be, ignoring every red flag because I was afraid of being alone. I will not make that mistake again. If love finds me someday, it will have to find me as I am. A mother first, a woman who knows her worth, a person who will never again let someone make her daughter feel like she is less than. My mother told me recently that she is proud of me. We were sitting on her porch drinking sweet tea while Wren played in the yard with my father, who was teaching her how to throw a baseball. "You could have stayed," Mom said. "A lot of women would have stayed, made excuses, tried to fix him, but you walked away the same night. You protected that little girl." I watched Wren wind up and throw the ball. It went wide, and my father cheered anyway. "She is all that matters," I said. "She is the only thing that has ever mattered." If you are watching this and you are in a situation where someone is mistreating your child, whether it is a partner, a family member, or anyone else, I want you to hear me. You do not owe anyone your loyalty when they are hurting the people you love. You are not obligated to fix someone who does not want to be fixed. and your children are watching. They are learning from you what love looks like and what treatment they should accept. Protect them, even when it is hard, even when it is scary, even when it means walking away from a life you thought you wanted. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is that your children know they are loved, that they are wanted, that they are enough exactly as they are. Ren knows that now, and no one will ever make her doubt it. Again, I made sure of that. If this story touched your heart or made you think, please take a moment to give this video a like. It helps more than you know. Share it with someone who might need to hear this message today. Drop a comment below and tell me your thoughts. I read every single one, and I love hearing from you. And if you are not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. I will see you in the next one.